This is Let's Talk Teens, a parenting podcast sharing tips on raising amazing teenagers. We are both certified life coaches that have worked with teenagers as coaches, mentors, and teachers. We are sharing what we have found to work best when dealing with teens and tough issues.
This is Let's Talk Teens with Abbi and Cheree, episode 80. Win the morning with your teen.
I love mornings. I am a morning person.
Oh, me
Um,
too.
I know. And so it's so funny for me when people are like, I'm a night owl, or I married a night owl. And I'm always like, don't you love the mornings? Don't you love this? And actually, for a lot of our teens and parents of teens, they will tell me that mornings are a really big struggle for them. And so I wanted to share some of our top tips and advice for how you can win the morning with your teen, because I feel like when we can have a positive interaction with our teen in the morning, that it can really set the pace for the rest of the day.
I agree. And I think we have to just remember, I know you're going to talk probably about a lot of great things, but we have to remember mornings probably are hard for most teenagers, if not all, because this is the time when they need more sleep and they are getting up early for school or different things. So I think it's just okay to be like, your teen's not broken if they're not a morning person. This is very normal.
Yes, and actually, like, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Shree, because no tip on here is make your teen a morning person, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth fighting that internal clock that is naturally shifting for our teenager. And so if that's you, you're like, oh my gosh, they're just so sleepy and I wish they'd go to bed sooner. And Sheree and I have done podcasts, we've done multiple podcast episodes on the importance of sleep. Like, keep working on that, but you don't need to magically turn them into a morning person. So, the first thing that I want you to try to focus on as parents when it comes to the morning, kind of like first way we're going to win the morning, is that we are going to try to make a positive connection with our teenager. And I love this because it's all on you. It's not on if they wake up in a good mood, but just can we find a way to have a positive interaction with our teenager? And I get that hopefully they're really independent on them getting dressed in the morning and all that stuff. But can you set something out for them? Can you give them a little hug when they come up the stairs? I mean, these are little ways that we can just kind of set the tone and let them know, hey, I love you. I see you. Today's going to be a great day. I don't know if you've ever experienced this with your parents, Sheree, but sometimes I knew just by the way my mom would do something or my dad would say something, I'm like, oh, they woke up in a bad mood, right? Or something must have happened. So we want to send the message to our teen, hey, today's going to be a good day and I'm in a good mood and I love you and here's a hug. Or even just if you maybe don't see them in the morning, that could be a possibility. Shoot them a text, right? But
Mm.
just find a positive way that you can interact and just love on your teen, even if it's just like the briefest second in the morning.
And I think we have to remember that they might not respond great to it. When my kids were teens, they just were always like, why are you such a morning person? Because I'd be like, good
You're
morning.
like a
You know?
songbird. You're like, hello.
And we bought this couch once and anyway, it was a pretty bright couch. And they're like, that couch should be called Mom in the Morning. They would tease me because it was, they're like, you're too much. But the thing is I still wouldn't go back and change that. I wouldn't go back and do that differently because yes, maybe they woke up tired or grumpy, or maybe they weren't really ready to interact. But I know all of my kids left for school in the morning knowing that I loved them. And I was, like, have a great day or make it a great day or, whatever I would say to them. I still think it set them off on the right foot, even if they didn't feel good. And I didn't need them to be happy. I just chose to be happy and have a good send off. Well, I'm
Yeah.
not saying I did 100%, but my kids will
But
say all
most
the
of the
time,
time.
right? Like, you were so happy in the morning. They left the house feeling loved.
Yes. And I once had a mom say, she used to call it, she would like busy on her kids. She'd be like, don't forget about this and don't do this. Like, and she'd
Mm.
kind of like, she would say, I'd be busy on them. And she's like, when I swapped that, like, yeah, sometimes they forgot stuff or they were a little bit late because there's a reason we're being like that. But she's like, it made a huge difference because all of a sudden they didn't go to school feeling, oh, I've got so
Rushed.
much going on. Yeah, I've been
Hmm.
already kind of micromanaged a little bit. And
Mm.
there might be an adjustment period as you try to implement some of these tips, and that's okay. And guess what? One of your kids might respond really well to this, and your other kids might not. But like Cherie, like don't change the way that you are, right? And I love this tip because it's all about you. I'm going to be positive. There's nothing they can do or say in the morning that's going to set me off. Like that's the attitude we should go in with. And then the second thing, which Cheree, I love your like couch, how your parents or your kids were like, this is mom. Um, we
Mhm.
want to help them develop the skill of waking up happy. And I just think that this is one of the most underrated, like valuable life skills we could ever teach of this skill of waking up happy. And it's totally a choice, it's totally a mindset. And your teen probably isn't doing that or doesn't have that mindset yet. So, how do we help them do that? Well, through our positive connections, but through our example. I am always, always, always amazed how hard it is in good and bad ways to escape our upbringing. And so, can we like endow our children with that memory of mom woke up happy or dad woke
Mm.
up happy? And because it's life changing and it can be a life changing skill in their marriage in the future. And I know that feels really far away, but if we can help them wake up happy or even just neutral, we can really help them develop an awesome life skill. Like, think missions, think moving out, think college, think being married. Like, that's really important.
It really is. I think about that being kind of a language in your home. Um, children learn the language of their parents. If my kids were raised in a Spanish speaking home and we only spoke Spanish, that's the language they would learn. But I think that's the same thing with like this morning thing. It's like if we wake up positive and happy and have a good, make it a good start to the day, they learn that language. And that doesn't mean as a teenager they're going to show up with that, but that's still going to be in their mind, in their DNA because they've learned that language. And so as they move out, they're going to have more of that language of starting the day off in a good way.
Well, and I feel like a skill like this, right? Learning to wake up happy is one that we plant as parents and we don't really get to see the fruits of it
True.
until
Mhm.
they're raising their own kids, right?
Yeah.
And then we get to hear, of, oh, yeah, my mom and dad do this and this. And then you're like, oh, yeah, because we did that, right? And so this is one of those skills that once they've experienced it with other people outside of the home, like, oh man, I have this roommate who's a grouch, or like they start to manifest some of those things that you've done in the home. So, see if you can wake up happy. See if, maybe some changes have to be made that you go to bed sooner or say affirmations to yourself, like whatever needs to happen for us to set that example. It really will pay huge dividends with your youth. And then lastly, feed them breakfast. Now, breakfast. Why is this the most controversial meal? I feel like teens will tell me all the time. They'll say, Abby, I never eat breakfast. Ugh,
Hmm.
I don't need to eat breakfast. They like, it's just something that they don't even think twice about. And as a society, I think it's interesting that we are okay with skipping breakfast. But here's why. Because I totally get some people really aren't hungry in the mornings. Like I actually get that. But the mental health benefits of your youth eating breakfast, especially when it comes to eating a protein, a healthy fat, and like a complex carb, right? So not just the bowl of cereal, but hey, we can start there. But if we can get our youth doing that, not only are they going to have like better resilience through the day with their mental health because they're not going to like crash with their blood sugars, but they will test better in school. They will be kinder to their friends. Like it's amazing the benefits of eating breakfast. And yet we tend to give teens a pass on this one. And it to me is a huge, like when my teens are like, I'm anxious and I'm depressed, I will ask them, I will say, are you eating breakfast? And most of the time it's a no. What about you, Sheree? What had been your experience?
Oh, couldn't agree more with that. My sister's a perfect example of this. She has four kids between the ages of 10 and 17, and I watch her get up every morning and make them breakfast. And they actually very rarely have cereal. And that is a ton of work for her to make sure that they have, a good breakfast. But the thing is it's just been set up from the time they were really young. This is what they do. They have breakfast in the morning, and she has that prepared for them. But I have noticed such a huge difference in how her kids do mentally and emotionally throughout the day as they eat their breakfast. And I just think it's so important. And even if your teen just like is like, no, 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 I don't want food, at least make them a protein shake or something.
Yeah,
And
put it in their
like
hands, send them out
put
the
it
door with it.
like send them out the door with it, like something so that they have some type of fuel. Because we're expecting them to and again, I know a lot of it is their fight, but to go out, leave out the door and their gas tank of their body is completely on empty, and yet they're supposed to run and function all day. And as a parent, we might think, okay, this should be their responsibility. I want them to learn how to feed themselves. They just might not be ready for that yet. It might really need to be a parent that's saying, hey, I want to make sure that you are leaving the house fueled.
Hmm.
And, and teaching them that, because then there will come a time, as they go off to college, where they know that that's such an important part because you as a parent have made it important. And yes, it is a lot of work, but I
Yeah.
just think it's really, really important.
I'm so glad you mentioned that work because it absolutely is like, and we're not even saying you have to be a short order cook or that you have to have this full breakfast spread for them, but being there present enough to say, hey, did you grab a protein shake? Or, oh, what did you eat for breakfast? Like doing a check-in because
Hmm.
I feel like so many youth, it's the last thing that they are thinking about. It's the last thing they care about. And I get too, like, even if maybe you're rushing out the door for work too, so we're not having like a made breakfast, but just providing and saying, hey, here's a protein shake, which guess what, Cheree? My favorite protein shakes, they just cost more money at Sam's Club. And so I
Dang
get
it.
that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to buy all this stuff or have breakfast food. Like, yeah, we are kind of asking you to do that because it is that important.
It
And
is. Yep.
one thing that I know I teach with teens, so I I give a lot of like presentations to women on like mental health, and I'll tell them, hey, you got to eat breakfast. And I give them like and it can't just be a donut, it has to be a
Mhm.
protein and a healthy carb and all those things. With teenagers, especially ones that I coach, if they are not used to eating breakfast, I give them a pass on anything. I'll be like, you can eat anything in the morning. I'm just trying to get you into the habit of eating something in the morning. And then we work it up so that they can have those mental health benefits. But you might have to start there with your teen of saying, here's an apple, go out the door, right?
Yeah.
Here is this, just because it really does make a difference. And I would be curious to parents who try this with their youth and just tell your youth, like, how do you feel on days that you eat breakfast versus
Yeah.
days that you don't eat breakfast?
Yeah. It really affects so much in the brain, in the body. It's a must.
So, parents, I know this episode was a lot of like, you do this and you do that, which I know your list is never ending. But just start with one of these, right? Maybe you just start with that positive attitude in the morning, giving
Hmm.
your team that hug, or I love you, or you got this, or putting a note in their lunch, right? Whatever that is that you can connect with them. But win the mornings, because when you win the morning, you actually are going to be away from your teen for so long, and that's what they're going to remember. Oh, yeah, I already saw mom today, and it's going to set the pace for that evening. So, best of luck to you, and we cannot wait to see you in our next podcast episode. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Teens with Cheree Murdock and Abbi Winslow. If you are looking for more tips to help your teenager, here's where you can find us. You can find Cheree Murdock on Instagram at Cheree Murdock Coaching or on her website, ChereeMurdock.com. You can find me, Abbi, on Instagram as Abbi Winslow or on my website, AbbiWinslow.com. Please rate and review our podcast and share with a fellow parent. Thanks for listening.